Hello friends, welcome to the Anatomy Hub. Today we'll study about the diaphragm. The muscles of the diaphragm that arises from the lower part of the sternum is known as your breastbone and the lower six ribs and the lumbar region, lumbar vertebrae of the spine and are attached to a central membranous tendon. Contraction of the diaphragm that increases the internal height of the thoracic cavity so that it is lowering its internal pressure and causing the inspiration of air, relaxation of the diaphragm and the natural elasticity of lung tissue and thoracic cage that produce expiration. The diaphragm is also important in expulsive actions, example the coughing, sneezing, vomiting, crying and expelling the fecal material, urine and in perforation the fetus. The diaphragm is pierced by many structures, notably the esophagus, aorta, and inferior vena cava, and is occasionally subject to herniation or you can say the rupture. Small holes in the membranous portion of the diaphragm sometimes allow the abnormal accumulation of fluid or air to move from the abdominal cavity, where the pressure is positive during the inspiration, into the pleural space of the chest, where the pressure is negative during the inspiration. Spasmodic inspiratory movement of the diaphragm produces the characteristic sound that is known as your hiccuping. So these are the some clinical things and the function of the diaphragm that we'll see later on. Just you have to know about the anatomy of the diaphragm, the structures of the diaphragm first, right? So as you can see here in this picture that there is presence of the diaphragm at the lower part of the thoracic wall, and this diaphragm is double dome shaped musculotendinous sheet that is located at the inferior most aspect of the rib cage. It serves two main functions, mainly it separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity, and this word diaphragm is derived from the Greek word diaphragma, meaning the partition. So it undergoes contraction and relaxation, altering the volume of the thoracic cavity and the lungs, that is producing the inspiration and expiration. So in this video, we will look at the anatomy of the diaphragm, its attachments, actions, and the associated neurovascular structures. So first we'll see the anatomical position and the attachments. As you can see here, this diaphragm, it is located at the inferior most aspect of the rib cage, that is filling the inferior thoracic aperture, and it acts as the floor of the thoracic cavity and the roof of the abdominal cavity, and the attachment of the diaphragm that can be divided into peripheral and central attachments. So here you will see that the diaphragm, it arises from the lumbar vertebrae and the arcuate ligaments, the lateral arcuate ligament and medial arcuate ligament that we will see in a while, and it also arises from the costal cartilage, inner surface of the costal cartilage of the ribs, that is from 7th to 10th costal cartilage, that is attached directly to the ribs of 10th and 11th and 12th also. The parts of the diaphragm that also arises from the vertebrae is a tendinous in structure and are known as the right and left crura, and the cross is the plural. Here you can see the right cross that arises from the L2, L1, L2 and L3, and their intervertebral disc also gives attachment to this diaphragm, and some fibers from the right cross that surround the esophageal opening also, that acting as a physiological sphincter to prevent the reflux of gastric contents into the esophagus. Like that, here we'll find the left cross that arises from the L1 and L2, and the intervertebral disc also gives origin to this diaphragm, and the muscle fibers of this diaphragm, they combine to form a central tendon over here that you can observe, and this tendon ascends to fuse with the inferior surface of the fibrous pericardium, that is either side of the pericardium, the diaphragm that ascends to form the left and right domes. At least the right dome lies slightly higher than the left dome. This is thought to be due to the presence of the liver. The muscle fibers that arises from the lateral arcuate ligament, that is, here you'll see the quadratus lumborum muscle and psoas major muscle. Actually, they are the two muscles present there, and there we'll find the fascia, thoracolumbar fascia thickening that makes this lateral and medial arcuate ligament. And from this arcuate ligament, the diaphragm, it takes its origin. Along with that, as you know, that the left cross and the right cross, they also takes origin from the vertebral body and the intervertebral disc. So left cross from the L to L3, and the right cross that is from the L2, L3 and L4. And here you'll find the peripheral muscle fibers that converge into the central tendon at the center, and at this central tendon you will find so many openings over there. That openings, they are the openings for the pathways through the diaphragm, and here you will see the plain chest radiograph, that is in anterior posterior view, and here you can observe how the dome of the diaphragm, that is related to your chest cavity and the abdominal cavity. So at this point you will find there is the presence of the heart that you can observe over here, and the apex of the heart is over here, and here you will find the superior mediastinum, and here you will find the right atrium, and this heart actually it is covered by the pericardium, and that pericardium is attached to the diaphragm. Here in this golden line you can see the dome of the diaphragm. So this right dome, it is just higher than this left dome, and uh, here you can see this right dome is due to the presence of the liver that ascends something higher, and at this red mark you can see the central diaphragm that is indented by the fibrous pericardium. It is fused with the uh, central tendon, and here you will see the inferior view of the diaphragm. You are inside this abdominal cavity, and you are looking at the top towards the roof. So here you can see the muscles, that is your psoas major and the quadratus lumborum muscle, and that is lined by the thoracolumbar fascia and the arcuate ligaments over there. And from there you will find these muscle fibers, they arises and they goes upward and towards the medial, and they form here the central tendon, and at this central tendon you will find the deficiency openings over there, and that the pathways through the diaphragm. So this diaphragm divides the thoracic and abdominal cavities, and so you'll find any structures that pass between the two cavities will pierce this diaphragm, and there are three openings that act as a conduit of these structures. So here we'll see that mm, some of the openings that is present just posteriorly at the nearer to the vertebral body, and they allows the aorta, the descending thoracic aorta, to pass through that, that is your aortic hiatus. So this aortic hiatus is at the level of T12 thoracic vertebra, and it allows passage to the aorta, to the thoracic duct, and to the azygous vein. Uh, and so here what you'll find, this aortic hiatus, it is not only giving passage to the thoracic aorta, but also it gives passage to the thoracic duct from the cisterna chyli, that is going upward. Like that, at the T8 level here in blue, you'll find the inferior vena cava opening. So you can say the caval hiatus that gives passage to not only the inferior vena cava, but also it gives passage to the terminal branches of your right phrenic nerve, and it is at the level of T8 thoracic vertebrae. And here you will see the esophageal hiatus. So it allows the esophagus to go down. So this esophageal hiatus, that is again, not only the esophagus is running down, but along with this the right and left vagus nerve also going towards the abdominal cavity, and this esophageal branches of your left gastric artery and vein, they also passes through this esophageal hiatus. Here you can see the sagittal section of the thoracic cavity, and here you will see the uh, diaphragm, how it is related to the heart, and how the diaphragmatic surface of the uh, heart, that is adhesive to this uh, diaphragm. And at this point you will find at the upper part of this diaphragm, you will find the three openings over there. So one is most posteriorly at the T12 level, you will find one opening. One is at the T8 level, you will find one opening. Okay. So first you will see this aorta opening, or aortic hiatus. So as you know that this is your ascending aorta, then this is your arch of aorta, then it goes down as the thoracic aorta, and when this thoracic aorta passes to the 12 thoracic vertebra, it changes its name. Like that, here you will find the esophageal hiatus. This esophageal hiatus, that here you can see in purple blue, that is your esophagus that is going down, and at the level of T10 thoracic vertebra, the esophagus passes towards the abdominal cavity, and its name changes as the abdominal part of the esophagus. And above to that, whatever it is your thoracic part of the esophagus. Like that, here we find the vena caval opening or vena caval hiatus, that is at the level of 8th, or you can say 9th thoracic vertebral body, and uh, here through which the inferior vena cava that passes. So in this picture you can see how this inferior vena cava that is going downward, and here you have to remember one tip to remember the vertebral level, that is the vena cava, that is 8 letters. So it is at the level of T8. Esophagus has 10 letters. So you can just remember it is, its opening is at the T10 level, and the aorta, the aortic hiatus, that is the 12 letters. So you will see that it is at the T12 thoracic level. Okay. And the action of this diaphragm, that is primary the muscle uh, for the respiration. So during the inspiration, it contracts and flattens. It increases the vertical diameter of the thoracic cavity, and this produces the long expansion, and air is drawn inside. And during the expiration, the diaphragm passively relaxes and returns to its original dome shape. So the thoracic cavity space will be reduced and the volume will be reduced. So like that, here you will find the innervation and the vasculature of the diaphragm. So the half of the diaphragm that receives the motor innervation from the phrenic nerve, that you can see over here, and the left half of the diaphragm, that is known as your hemidiaphragm, that is innervated by the left phrenic nerve, and vice versa. Each phrenic nerve that is formed in the neck region, here you can see in the yellow color, and within the cervical plexus they arises and they contains the fibers from the spinal roots C3 to C5. So the majority of the arterial supply to this diaphragm is delivered via the inferior phrenic arteries, which arises directly from the abdominal aorta, and the remaining supply, that is from the superior phrenic artery, pericardiophrenik artery, and the musculophrenic arteries. And the venous drainage will be follow the above what I said, uh, above the arteries, right? So here you can see the uh, rectangle part, that is the superior mediastinum. So at this superior mediastinum, how you can see the phrenic nerve that is descending downward, and it is becoming the anterior relation to the hilum of the lung, whereas the vagus nerve that will become the posterior relation to the hilum of the lung. Then it comes downward towards the inferior mediastinum. So it crosses the mediastinum to the diaphragm and supplies all the diaphragmatic fibers, including your pericardium. And the sensory phrenic nerve, that fibers that distributed inside the mediastinum. And here you can see how the C3, C4, C5 spinal roots, they are just coming out of the spinal cord, and they unite together and form the phrenic nerve, and that goes down. And the C3, C4 and C5, that actually keeps the diaphragm alive, because here we will find some clinical relevance. That is, the main thing of the diaphragm is the paralysis of the diaphragm. So the diaphragmatic paralysis, that is due to an interruption in its nervous supply. So this can occur in the phrenic nerve, cervical spinal cord, or inside the brainstem. So it is most often you will see in the patients that is due to the lesion of the phrenic nerve. So what are the lesions? We can divide these lesions into four types. That is your mechanical trauma, compression, myopathy, or neuropathy. So what is this mechanical trauma? That may be due to the ligation or damage to the nerve during the surgery, or any compression that will also cause the paralysis of the diaphragm, and that compression may be due to a tumor within the chest cavity. And another cause may be the myopathy, such as your myasthenia gravis, or the neuropathies, such as your diabetic neuropathy. So paralysis of this diaphragm that produces a paradoxical movement, and the affected side of the diaphragm that moves upward during the inspiration, just opposite to the normal diaphragm, and it moves downwards during the expiration. So a unilateral diaphragmatic paralysis that is usually asymptomatic, and most often an incidental finding on X-ray may be there. If both sides are paralyzed, then the patient may experience the poor exercise tolerance, the orthopnea, the fatigue, and the lung function test will show a restrictive deficit. And management of this diaphragmatic paralysis is twofold. Firstly, the underlying cause must be identified and treated. The second part of the treatment deals with the symptomatic relief, and this is usually via the non-invasive ventilation, such as a CPAP. What is CPAP? Continuous positive airway pressure machine. So in this way, we can treat and we can manage the diaphragmatic paralysis. So hope you got the idea about the diaphragm. So if you have any doubt, please you ask in the comment section so that I will clear your the doubt. And most positive comments are welcome. And if any changes you need, then that comment are also most welcome. And please, if this video is informative, then please like it and share with your friends so that they will also get the information. So thanks for watching.